I'm really just sitting here thinking about why it is so important to get close and closer. Excuse me. I just ate dinner. I'm sitting here thinking about why it's so important right now to get close and even closer to whatever it is that you identify with as something higher than yourself. I'll continue to say it, what you call it, what it is, how describing it resonates with you. Just be clear on that. It doesn't matter as far as us getting into any type of debate around what that higher thing is. But just observing what is going on right now in the world, there's many things to observe, but particularly just a multitude of different things. I was having a conversation with my brother and we were kind of discussing a lot of those different things, and I would say that the central message or concept or idea we're trying to go a little bit back and forth on, or just conversate on, was thinking about this necessary requirement and this need for us as people right now and humans in general to continue to elevate our consciousness and elevate our understanding of ourselves within, because it is so much stuff going on outside that, for one, it is very easy to get pulled into. A lot of the stuff that I've been seeing on Twitter, X, a little bit on Instagram, I do my best to not watch the news, but there's so much stuff that you can observe nowadays that you just can get pulled into immediately. And there is some very massive things going on. There is either very real or very construed and constructed form of disclosure going on. There is AI conversations. There is political and governmental things going on. And because to me, that focusing on that being the conversation, you get so lost and pulled into the rabbit hole sometimes with consuming that information, that I don't necessarily want to, deviate at all what this channel discusses. And to a certain extent, what I enjoy, or what I would like to do with the channel, is simply having that conversation about where am I at and where am I trying to go. What are the principles and philosophies and ideas and even the tactics and techniques that I can utilize to get me to point A to point B. And that's really what I want the main focus to be. But even with what I've been observing and the conversation I was having with my brother, I'm just trying to think about how to find some clarity in the midst of everything that is going on in the world right now. Finding that quiet place for yourself and getting in touch with the intuitive voice, the small inner voice, Holy Spirit, whatever different people call it, but being able to get to those spaces of clarity within your day to where you get clear with yourself about what is it that you want for yourself in the midst of everything that's going on. Because off top, one thing that I noticed is that when you start to, consume the information as much as I think we all want to be aware, or we want to be educated, or sometimes I think we just enjoy the thrill of, oh my goodness, UFOs and UAPs and disclosure, and oh my God, what's gonna happen with AI, and oh, there's a war still going on over there, and did you see what Biden did? Did you see what Trump did now? And just so many different things. And I think all of it obviously has its credence. It all has its own meaning. But a part of me so quickly starts to think, and what? And what? And that's not from the perspective of being apathetic, like, oh, little old me, I can't do anything about that. However, there is an aspect of controlling what you can control. And I think it is so important that even to not be pulled into all the relevant or entertaining information that is out there, it's like, to me, what's most important is getting clear on yourself, having that conversation with that small quiet voice, whatever you refer to it as. I'm just speaking to that place of clarity within you where you understand. It may not be understood by me, may not be understood by your family, or even, some of your friends, your peers, co-workers, whoever. It's not affirmed or defined or directed by them, but it's that thing where you can be clear on that. And as to why, how does a person find that space for themselves so they can understand, what do I do with my 24 hours? What do I set my sights on? What is my truth? What are the principles that I'm gonna choose to live by? What am I giving attention and energy to? It makes me scratch my head. It definitely makes me scratch my head, for sure. Just like, you can very much and very quickly get into the state of, it's like, yo, what is about to happen in the world right now? And then you go looking for it, you start doing your research, or you start consuming, and everybody got an answer for you. Oh, this is gonna happen, and these are the end days, and all this different stuff, and all this different rhetoric that people use to describe what is going on now. Now, getting back to my original point of, I think right now, it's always been important, but it is such an important time to make sure your connection with source is clear, and being able to be clear about, what frequency do I want to move in? Like, how am I going to be moving throughout my 24 hours? What am I going to do with myself? Not getting pulled into the thinking that you're out of control of all this different stuff and whatnot. And, the perceived powers that be, they gonna do what they do. I could really get on this video right now and just start repeating and regurgitating all the things that I've consumed in the past 24 or 48 hours, and we could have a discussion on that. However, I think just the more important question comes down to, what do you want to do with yourself with the time that you have in this life? What would you like to see for yourself, and what are the experiences that you want to have? and getting to that place of clarity so there can be a clear communication and understanding. Because when I say we have all the answers, it's not that you immediately have the answers as well. It is something that is refined in a space of prayer, meditation, taking a walk, sitting by yourself, any of those things where you start to get on that frequency of being aware that you have a choice, being aware of the power that you have, and getting clear on that. And then taking the steps to do what it is that you want to do. There's so many different directions that I can go with this, because at the same time that it can look like doom and gloom, somebody else is going to look at everything that's going on and is thinking, well, things are just changing like they always have been, and I will be a producer in this new age, and I will reap the benefits of that. I'm going to create still. And I think that's the main thing, is understanding of whether you want to cut the camera on, you want to, I always refer to, making a video in music, because that's just what I'm on right now. And forgive me for not having more examples off the top of my head, but it truly is whatever creative endeavor that you want to do. Being able to have that line of communication with that small, quiet, still voice in you. And when I refer to the small, quiet, still voice and place within yourself, is because whether through prayer or meditation or just self-introspection and, not necessarily analyzing, but just that introspective process, you start to understand that when you make decisions out of that place of faith and clarity, then, it is something that guides you in a way that is beyond your understanding, far beyond our understanding. Sorry, my back and my neck. Pause. But I guess the biggest thing I could just get at is what I've kind of been saying over and over in this video, is just, man, be clear. It's a phenomenal time right now to further your relationship with God, your relationship with your higher self, your relationship with yourself, the relationship with the people that you truly care about around you. It is a great time to do those things, because the world is very much doing a certain thing right now. And I'm doing my best to not get into all the other topics, but with all the things that are going on right now, I feel like there is kind of this distinction in where there will be people who are pulled into the frequency of the doom and gloom, and there are going to be people who are pulled into the frequency of, we are consciously awaking to more and more. And how that looks for each person is different. Some people, they leaving old habits behind. They changing their life. They changing, what they have maybe done repetitively for years and years, and they just setting a new tone for themselves. And that in itself is its own amazing journey. That in itself is like, there's a valiant effort that it takes to do that and to commit to that over time. That all exists within the space of thinking and knowing, like, okay, let me wake up to the power that I actually have. Like, let me wake up and see clearly what I'm actually capable of, what I can actually do. Because on the other side of things, when it comes to seeing what's going on in the world, you can begin to buy into some idea of powerlessness. That's a word. But you can begin to buy into that in a real way, where it's like, yo, the way that it's looking with this AI stuff, the way that this wealth gap is about to adjust and all this different stuff, you start to get into the space of feeling like everybody making a play but you. So that's why I think it's important that you you make your play. Like, to be honest, one thing I think we can be clear about is, as much as it hurts to leave the comfort zone, there ain't no time left. We gotta go. When I say we, I'm just talking about the people, the small portion of people who choose to have some base level of understanding that that higher thing is within me and I am that. I'm not gonna be poked and prodded and pushed in certain directions and have my focus and my attention and energy going in all these different directions when it doesn't actually serve me. It creates narratives in my mind, and it makes me think that the doom and gloom is just impending and that it's irreversible and that I can't do anything about it. It's crazy thinking about just the different perspectives of. I know some people who are watching that you may have seen Bashar. Forget his last name, Daryl something, but he does the channeling in the entity he channels. His name is Bashar, and obviously there's going to be tons of speculation, and off rip, some people are going to say complete BS, and some people would be more open to listening to him. And my kind of idea with it was, are you listening to what he's saying? It was never the messenger type thing. It was very much the message, and whatever he was saying, and a lot of what he was saying, it was like, wow, that really, really resonates. But I remember him talking about this aspect of there being some form of multiverse or multi-universe, and there just being this aspect where some people are going to align frequency and they're going to experience a different version or different life on Earth, and there will be some people who align with a frequency that is completely polar opposite to that, and all the doom and gloom is very much going to happen as well. All these things happening in parallels, happening congruently, happening, and I don't know the mechanism by which that actually works. And, I don't know if I'm entirely sold on that idea as much as it very much makes sense to me in the way that, choices have such a massive compounding just value and impact on our lives over a certain time span. And it seems like over time, depending on intention and attention and what people align themselves with, it's like, man, you see people go off the deep end. You see people remain very stagnant or the same. And you see some people that really, really go do what they said they were going to do. They really go get it. Just based off the choices, based off the action, based off their belief system, based off their narrative and their story and what they telling themselves. So that's something that's just interesting to me, is thinking about that concept right now with what the world is doing. Like, man, it could be some people in the next few years who are experiencing the rapture or experiencing hell on earth, and it could very well be a whole nother group of people who have entered into a whole different space, a quote unquote heaven on earth, or a quote unquote higher frequency of earth. And I know sometimes, and I honestly, I'm just throwing it out there because we're now very much in the woo aspect of spirituality. But what's crazy is that as much as it feels like that to the logical brain, it could very much be a very tangible, real thing by which even just our science is barely starting to rediscover the truth or the mechanism by which that occurs, like the quantum entanglement and stuff like that. And sometimes, and that's why I say it's important to find the clarity, because even listening to me, you could hear how my mind is just bouncing around. I could hear it, where it's like, wow, that's a lot. It's a lot of different stuff going on in the mind. So it is definitely on me to make the intentional focus of, okay, well, if I keep waking up and I keep getting dazed, then what do I want to actually do with myself? And don't think so much in the realm of byproducts and results of it's like, whoa, you know, how much money you want and what you want to achieve and all these other things. Go ahead and write those things and be clear about those things. But be far, far more in tuned and clear with, say I only had so many days left, say I only had so many months left. What would be most important is that I do the things that, for one, they push me, I enjoy them, they are at the same time challenging, they are also fun. I'm finding out more about this creative process with myself, pushing myself to do things that I haven't necessarily done before. Focusing on that, like focusing on laying your head down at night and just be like, I did the work today. Like, I did the work. That to me is, for one, that's victory. That's success. We tend to think about success on a long-term aspect, and then we look at the back end of success after it's many, many years in. We're like, oh, he made it. Oh, he's successful. But it's very much just the compounding interest and the stacking of bricks, where it's like, well, if those actions got him to that place down the line that we like to call made it, he was being successful the whole time. She was being successful the whole time. She was doing what was required to get there. Being in touch and in tune with what that is for you. For me, as much as, you know, I can keep moving the goalposts and the metric on things like making a video or making a song, my success really is just to be a creator and just to use the power that I have to try to say something, and something of value. I guess, you know, I could really just say whatever. I could get on here and bullshit you, and I could get on the song and talk about the same things that everybody else is talking about, and, you know, I could do that. I could, but it's more so a thing about, you know, writing something, saying something that it's like the person on the other side of it finds themselves in. They see themselves in that. They say, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that struggles with just turning the camera on and having to go with the fact that I sound crazy at first and I don't really have my ideas laid out right and the concepts ain't that good, or somebody who's writing a song or wants to write a song and it's like, it don't sound like how those guys sound, and man, I don't really know what to say, and all the different ways that we move the goalposts from just making some, embracing the fact that you can't just make something shitty. You don't necessarily have to make the next best thing for the next thing that you create. Like, you can just create. Man, so much is changing. Like, the narratives are going to change a lot in the next 5 to 10 years. How we perceive ourselves, how we perceive ourselves in the universe, our history, the power that humans actually have, our value in the universe, the fact that we were here before, spiritually, before the physical body, and when the physical body goes, we will be here still. spiritually. Like, we very much been in this, and there is very much like actual, verbiage and concepts and different, whether they're writers or different people who have been discussing this for quite a while, and they've been saying it. And some of these people, they get called, whatever. But I think in very much so in this next 5 to 10 years, it's gonna be a thing where what we it reminds me of you remember in I guess in some way I'm making a correlation with the UAP and UFO stuff, but I'm just thinking generally, without the pun intended. But you remember that part in Men in Black when Will Smith, he's sitting, and I can't remember where exactly he's sitting, somewhere in New York, and they're sitting at the water, and I forget his name too. Old boy is sitting there with Will, and he's telling them like, you can come work for us. And Will has kind of just been exposed to all this, like, whoa, like, wait, we not the only people in the universe. And I remember at the end of that day, he's sitting by the water, and old boy's telling him like, you can come work and whatnot. But he's just having that moment of the fact that when he woke up that morning, he thought he knew everything about the world. And then by the time he's sitting there on that bench next to the water, he realizing how much he didn't know. And I think we're very much in kind of one of those processes that it's not going to happen overnight, but it's definitely occurring, to where we're about to get exposed more. Like, I think the polarity of things that are going on are just going to draw a more rigid distinction upon themselves, and the people who are aligned and the people who are still very much attached to the physical and attached to the chaos of the world. Like I said, the lines are going to become more and more rigid. That's why I feel like it is so important to be clear with that higher thing. And I don't mean be clear, or it's like sometimes people will say where it's like, y'all need to get close to God. Like, y'all need to find Jesus. You need to get close because these are the end times. I'm not really talking about it like that. If that resonates with you, then it resonates with you for a reason. But for me, it doesn't hit like that. For me, it's more so a thing where it's like, whether it's you or whether it's other people, there's always been an intuitive understanding that there is far more to you and mankind than is currently accepted on societal norms and just baseline standards. Now, it's a thing where almost the intuition is like, I told you. Like, I told you. Don't you see? Don't you see how the same people who told you that X, Y, and Z wasn't a thing, now they're saying, oh yeah, it's real. It's a thing. So there's that aspect of it. Let's even take that concept and apply that to the thought process of, think about all the things your intuitive self tells you to do, from starting the business, from helping and providing people, or helping and providing value to people, to being a creative and just trusting that inner child within yourself. Like, hey, I always said you should try this, or you've always been doing this. Why don't you just take it to the next level? Like, really live within that thing. It's crazy how that concept of the inner child, the intuitive nature of ourselves that's been nudging us, the same way it's exposing things in the outside world, like, yeah, you thought that wasn't real, and now it's becoming clear. I think that same concept applies to this thing that's going on within ourselves, where it's like, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I trust that fully. I don't know who's on the other side or who would ever watch the video, but I trust intuitively that I don't want to make it seem like, oh, because you found this video or because you at this channel, I know you're going to do it. I just have the state of knowing that you will do those things. And it's gonna be that same process where it's like, I was telling you, and you're gonna see the little small signs. Nothing massive is gonna happen in this instantly, but you're gonna see the little small signs, and you're like, damn, maybe I should have been doing this. Oh man, I should have been listening to myself. Like, I had the answer, and I was kind of ignoring it. I think that's existing in multiple aspects of the world right now, within us and without.